Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our second session today and the second week of the Global Festival of Yoga. So we've been discussing our theme for this year, which is healing, wisdom, and well-being. And we also said that we're going to have a special focus this year on nutrition with a focus on a plant-based diet and an Ayurvedic diet. And for anyone who practices yoga or follows a spiritual path, there is so much emphasis on the food we eat, and in Indian culture in general, there's instructions across our scriptures on what kind of food is good for the system, how food affects our mood, how it affects our emotions, how it affects the mind, the way we think. And especially with a yoga practitioner, we're always advised to eat sattvic food that is natural, food that is organic, food that feeds the mind in a healthy way. And now more than ever, I think, the world needs to, it's the most natural way to grow, to build our immunity, to have a strong immune system. And we're very excited today because this is our first plant-based session for this festival. And we have a very, very amazing chef joining us this evening, Chef Jamie Raftery, who's one of the first recipe bloggers in the world to display food carbon footprint. And he's going to be talking to us about the benefits of a plant-based diet and also sharing recipes with us. And in Indian culture, food is placed at a very high value. We offer it every time we do puja. It's a form of prasadam. So it's almost a divine experience. And welcome, Jamie. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you so much. And I'll hand over this session to you now. Thank you very much.
Great. Lovely. That was a great introduction and great words that I'm going to talk more about plant-based diet today. So my name is Jamie Raftery from Galway in the west of Ireland. Currently, I'm located in Phuket. I've been here for the last 3 years working at a sports and health resort called Tanya Pura. So at Tanya Pura, I've been working with a lot of athletes and advising them on plant-based nutrition and helping them fuel up for competitions and realizing the benefits of a plant-based cuisine. So it's been a very exciting time here in Thailand for the last 3 years. I've been discovering a whole host of new ingredients that I didn't get in the west of Ireland. So I've been a chef for 21 years, worked all over Europe, all over USA. So coming here to Asia has been a whole new experience for me. It's been an incredible continued journey on discovering so many ingredients. So I actually made it to India as well for a food tour a few years ago. That was when I was first introduced to Ayurveda. And that kind of opened the door for me to like looking into this whole new world of food and history and culture. So very excited to be here today. Yeah, you got me for the next hour. So we're going to have a question and answer time at the end. To start off with, I'm going to do a little bit more of a talk about my background and a little bit about the benefits of plant-based nutrition that I have realized myself and that I have witnessed with other people I have worked with. Harry, you might go over there, please. Where should we start? So today's recipe I'm going to be introducing is with wax gourd. It's an ingredient I'm sure many of you have worked with or seen a lot over in India, and it grows a lot in China, Southeast Asia. So I'll be making one very simple recipe using this today, which is very good for digestion, good for metabolism, good for mental clarity, and in the heat as well. In the summertime, it helps keeps your body temperature down, which is good for me here. An Irishman living in Phuket, I need all the help I can get with keeping my body temperature regulated. So just to introduce my story with plant-based food, I think it's a little bit relevant to today's topic, and it's quite interesting that I've gone from a meat cook at the #1 restaurant in the world in California About 11 years ago, I was working there. I was a meat cook, I was a butcher, I was a fishmonger. I always used to work with meat and fish in every kitchen I've worked in. That was the section I was on. You know, everything revolved around meat and fish. So for me to go to a whole food, plant-based, holistic chef here in the jungles of Phuket, it's been quite a journey, quite a personal journey, and quite a career change as well. So my journey in the plant-based holistic domain started when I was about 6 years ago. I was an executive chef in a luxury hotel in the UK and winning lots of awards and accolades and doing really well, you know, at the top of my profession. But what happened to me, I was, you know, I was out of energy. I was overweight. I had no time for family. I had no time for friends. I had no time for sport. I was, you know, I was tired. I was stressed. I was getting angry and irritable very easy, and you know, worried about the very small little things that, on the grand scheme of things, they're a little bit irrelevant. So I knew at that stage that I needed to make a change. So what I did is I took a career break, and I went out to northern Thailand and started doing Muay Thai training. And it was that time when I was in Thailand that I decided I'd stop eating meat for the first time ever. The only reason I did that was because I was at a food market and I saw loads of like rats running around the meat, and it wasn't very hygienic. So I thought, okay, well, I'm here in Thailand, I'll stop eating meat just for this couple of months. But through that time, I started to feel cleaner, I started to feel lighter, I started to feel fresher. I started learning about new ingredients that I wouldn't have otherwise seen or used or tasted. So it was the start of my plant-based journey back then. Completely unplanned, but I went with what feels good. I started to lose weight naturally. I started to feel energetic again, and with doing Muay Thai, I started to feel stronger than I've ever been in my life, and that was at the age of 32 years old. So I came back to the UK after that, and I was like, okay, what do I do now? As a meat and fish and classically trained chef, I decided I'd start my own business, and I called myself the Holistic Chef. So I went off on my own journey of discovery, and I put all eggs, meat, fish, dairy, everything, just put that all to the side and started over again. And at that stage, I'd been a cook for 16 years. And for me, it was like starting all over again. Some chefs think it'll be limiting, not having any animal products to cook. But for me at that time in my career, it was like opening up a whole new journey of discovery. So I started learning about raw food, about vegan food. That's when I started developing, like learning more about Ayurveda and macrobiotics and traditional Chinese medicine. And I was like a kid in a sweet shop. It was like, wow, you know, there's new ingredients everywhere. And I was learning new techniques on how to use my classically trained classic skills and use these ingredients and present them in a nice way. So that was where my holistic journey started 6 years ago. Since then, I've been working on health retreats all around Europe, working as a private chef for some celebrities who just like plant-based food. So I became the go-to person in the UK for plant-based cooking. And that brought me out to Thailand here to work at this health and sports resort to support, you know, sports teams and athletes in plant-based nutrition to make them, like, you know, stronger, better, and faster at what they do. My own personal journey from realizing the benefits of plant-based nutrition, I'm always very much a leader. I will never tell anybody to do anything or advise anybody to do anything that I don't 100% believe in myself. So before I started promoting and celebrating plant-based foods publicly, I wanted to see how it affected my body, how it affected my athletic performance and everything. And, you know, I've done the last 2 years, I've done my first 2 marathons, finished in just under 4 hours. And that's from a plant-based diet. My body is in the best shape it's ever been at 38 years old. I feel fitter, stronger, faster, more energized now than I did 10 years ago. And that's the honest truth. And that's from eating a whole food plant-based diet regularly and consistently. So At the moment, I think plant-based diet is trending a lot all over the world, and rightly so, because I think everyone is like waking up and realizing, wow, you know, we cannot eat all this beef and all this fish in the sea, and it's unsustainable. It's completely unsustainable. And we all know, like, nobody can stand up and justify eating all these animal products and not, you know, not be aware of the impact that their eating habits have. So I think it's a very exciting time in the whole plant-based domain all around the world, because there's so many people interested and switching to this way of life and way of eating. And I don't like to refer to it as a diet. Diet is something I've always, part of my holistic approach to food is I don't embrace diets. I think diets are very short-term fix. And there's a lot of diets being sold in the media to help people lose weight, or to help people anti-aging, or intermittent fasting, ketogenic, all these different diets that are very fashionable and trendy. I like to think of it more as a lifestyle change. Tara, did you get me some water, please? It's more about lifestyle change. So I like to refer to plant-based, not diet, plant-based lifestyle. And it is a lifestyle. It becomes a way of life, a way of eating, and a way of approaching foods. One really clear thing I noticed when I went from animal-based diet to plant-based diet is the way you feel compassionately. I'm a firm believer in the food we eat energizes us. I think a lot of us are aware of this from yoga and Ayurveda and so on. We get energy from our food. Food either energizes us, like brings us up, or it either depletes our energy. And what I noticed from eating plant-based foods, you know, living plants, is that when you eat them consistently, you feel much more alive. Your eyes are brighter, your face is brighter, you jump out of bed earlier in the morning. So and you feel a bit more compassionate as well, more, you know, you're not eating animals that have been subjected to cruelty, or they might have hormones in them, or they might have like you know, different chemicals in them from the processing industry. When you eat all them products, you take on that energy, and I think you take on that anger, you take on that fear, you take on that negative energy. So I think a really powerful aspect of progressing to a plant-based lifestyle is you just feel more alive. And for me, it's like a spiritual connection with food. You know, seeing a fruit or a vegetable grow from seed, and seeing it grow to a fruit or a flower or a plant that we can actually eat and enjoy with so much pleasure, like, and then we get the nutrition from it. For me, it's a magical process, and something I never really aware of until recently, until I started, you know, discovering more about the philosophy and the psychology behind eating, which I think is a very important aspect as well of eating. It's a psychological aspect to it. So nowadays as well, there's so many fears around eating, a lot of eating disorders as well. And there's a lot of people eat like they're weighing calories and they're weighing macros, and they're, you know, on their smartphones measuring how many calories they burnt that day, so they know how much calories they can eat. And I think that's very counterproductive, because it's taking you away from the actual enjoyment of sitting down mindfully with a beautiful bowl of food and eating it, knowing that that food is nourishing you. So in all my classes and all my work I do, I try to promote that aspect to it, eating with gratitude, eating with joy, eating with pleasure, eating mindfully as well. So I notice that a lot nowadays, is that there is a lot of people eating with fear, which is sad really, because, you know, there's so much enjoyment we can get every day from food. But then sometimes there's too much enjoyment we can get from food. It goes to another level of when food tastes so good, I think we can overeat, and we're all guilty of that from time to time. But I think being aware of that and being conscious of that, actually, okay, are we overeating? Are we eating for greed, or are we actually eating for need for our body? And I think it's good to have that awareness every day, and at every meal as well, to just eat enough, not too much. So it's an interesting world of plant-based foods. I'm going to start off with this juice. a very simple juice to demonstrate to you. If you're in Asia, India, China, these are very, very easy to get. At the market here in Thailand, they're about like 30 cents. They're so cheap. I've just posted a blog post on this recipe actually over the last few days. And when I post a blog post on a certain ingredient or on a recipe, what I like to do is research about where these ingredients come from, the history behind them, how they're grown, how they taste, what recipes you can use them in, what cultures they've been used in throughout the world, and then I create a recipe on them, and then I share that with my students and with my following. And for me, it's a very, very exciting process because I get to learn so much about ingredients, and then learn about some ancient Ayurvedic recipes, which is where this one's from. I'm sure some of you will be familiar with it, but there's so many people that isn't familiar with this. These are so plentiful in the local market, and all it gets used in is soup, which is okay, but there's so much more that can be gotten from these. It's a very bland tasting vegetable, which is good. I think having a bland tasting vegetable can be good because then you can add different spices and seasonings and so on to it. So we've got a cold press juicer. I'm going to cut these down to small little pieces, put them through the juicer with some lemon, and then I'm going to add some black salt or pink salt, one or the other. Black salt, we all know, tastes like boiled eggs sometimes if you don't cook it, so that can be a little off-putting for some people. So a little bit of pink salt is nice there, and then some black pepper, used in India a lot. Really good with turmeric as well. So I'm going to crush down a little bit of that and just season the juice with that. So the lemon, what I do is I'm going to put it through the juicer as well, because all the white inside is okay. There's still nutrition. I just take off the yellow wax. So I'm only going to need about half of this. If you do not have a cold press juicer, it's okay. You can do this in a blender as well. You're just going to have to blend it all together, add a little bit of water, and then strain it before you drink it. Best to have this juice in the morning time. In the morning time is best for this juice when your digestion is, when you're empty, your digestive system is empty. And when we sleep at nighttime, our body goes through a natural detoxification process. Our body is working hard at nighttime to detox and to clean out all the toxins and rest and recuperate and repair cells and everything, which is why one of the many reasons why sleep is so important. But best to have this juice in the morning before you wake up. Really good for digestion. It helps flush out toxins, helps keep your body temperature down. Lots of benefits. I hear it's good for skin, good for hair growth. Oh. To give it a little bit more flavor, you could put a little bit of mint in here as well. I'm just going to add a diced lemon in. think that'll be enough. Lovely. The lemon just brings it to life. There we have it. Ooh. So we got a little bit of black pepper. Cover your ears if you got headphones on. It's one of my favorite tools in the kitchen. It really is. You know, it's so therapeutic using something like this. You could put it in an electric spice grinder, but it just doesn't have the same satisfaction using this for grinding curry paste and spices. There's something about it. It's almost like a meditative, therapeutic piece of equipment to use. Every kitchen in Thailand has one. When you're walking down the street, you can hear. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of pink salt, just to bring it to life, from the Himalayas, and a little bit of black salt. Black salt, very healthy too. And that's it, as simple as that. This can be your morning routine. And that's it. It's best to keep, I think, don't keep that for any more than one day. Any cold pressed juices you do, it's best to, you know, they're still alive. The way I see fruits and vegetables, they're still alive. They're still living. They've got living enzymes in them. So when you juice them, I think within a day, it's best to use them. And here we go, to good health. I hope you get to make your own and have a taste. Let me know how it is. Nice. So plant-based foods, there's 70,000 plant-based foods around the world edible to human beings that are yet discovered. So it's in no way limiting at all. You know, a lot of my friends, a lot of chefs say to me, "Oh, you're vegan, what do you eat? Or you're plant-based, what do you eat? Where do you get your protein?" And it takes a new perspective. You need a new way to look, a new way to approach food. And I think that's really good, because then we question, we're more alert to learning and to discovering new ingredients. So going on to into a plant-based lifestyle it should be seen as a journey of discovery. And education is so important. With eating in general. Education is so important. We need to know what we're eating and what it does to us and how we feel after it. And I like to know where my food comes from, who made my food, did you spray chemicals on it, is it organic? I think we need to interrogate our food more, question what brand made that sauce or made that juice, and what are their motives behind it. Are they profit driven, or are they supporting the community, and are they working with cooperatives and supporting farmers and paying them a fair price? So I think it's really important to interrogate our food and be aware of where it's coming from and what's in it. So with plant-based food, depending where you are in the world, it varies a lot. It varies so much depending on the season, the time of year, and where you are in the world. If you're in, India or the west of Ireland, we're going to be eating completely different things. It's completely different climate, completely different seasons. So there's no one diet or one lifestyle. There's no one meal plan that fits everybody. Eating locally and seasonal is best advisable. So go to your local markets. That's where we get all our ingredients. We go to the local market and you see what's in season. You see what the farmers have been producing, and that's what we should be eating. What's in season at the time, because then we get the nutrients from that ingredient that our body needs at that time of year in that region we're in. So I'm going to have another shot. That's so good. There's no one joining me for a shot. It's strange here drinking it on my own. Harry, you want a shot? Nice. So, other benefits from plant-based food. What other benefits have we got? We're going to do a question and answers after, so be ready with your questions. Got lots of information, lots of knowledge here to share with you all, so get your questions ready. From my experience on plant-based food, this is my dry stores. I've got everything from teff from Ethiopia to millet to amaranth to Jaugulan tea here. So much variety. That's another key point, I think, variety. Variety is the spice of life, is a good saying, and when it comes to food, variety is key. I think the more different foods we eat and the more different colored foods we eat, the better it is for our body, because we're getting different nutrients, and then our gut microbiome is getting different enzymes and different strains of good bacteria and so on. So I think a diversity of diet is really important, and by eating a plant-based diet, you've got an opportunity to do that by having a good diversity of ingredients. So variety is a good one. Another one is eat the rainbow. That's another easy term I tell people who don't know what, not too sure what a plant-based diet is or what I should eat, what's got protein, what's got low carb, high carb. We say eat the rainbow. And that's why we have a sense of color, is so we can distinguish different foods in the wild. Eating a plateful of a salad, for example, with a different array of colors. If you've got mango and beetroot and some green kale and some red pomegranate and some black olive, it already looks like you want to eat it. And then from a nutritional perspective, you've got a variety of different nutrients there, because each color has a different phytonutrient or a different enzyme or a different mineral or something like that. So I like to simplify the whole process of eating by then a couple of key tips. Eat the rainbow, eat a variety, eat what's in season. And then from a balance perspective, I like to choose a lot of foods that come from under the ground. I choose foods that are grown on top of the ground, and then something from the tree and something from the sea. And by that, you're getting grounding root vegetables that ground you, ground your energy. You've got ingredients like cabbage and like asparagus and different shoots that grow up over the ground, and that kind of energizes you and uplifts you. And then fruits and nuts and seeds from the tree, which provide another nutrition element. And then from the sea, not forget the sea, we've got so many seaweeds that are so nutritious and full of many minerals and protein, and so good for the environment as well. The seaweeds actually clean the oxygen and refilter it. So seaweeds are a very sustainable source of protein and nutrition. And then not forgetting mushrooms. And I think there's one, I wouldn't say mistake, but one oversight in this plant-based lifestyle is that plants don't actually encompass the world of fungi. Fungi, as in mushrooms, is a whole new universe in itself. And fungi are not actually a plant. The fungi mushrooms are fungi. And there's thousands of different varieties of mushrooms all over the world. No matter which region you're in, there will be mushrooms that are indigenous to that region, and you will not see them anywhere else. I'm discovering mushrooms here in Thailand, in the south of Thailand, that I've never seen before. I go to the market and there's all these array of mushrooms, and it's like, wow, it's a whole new world. So incorporating fungi, mushrooms into your lifestyle as well is really good. Mushrooms, fungi, and plants grow in harmony together. Neither of them would exist without each other. And it's just so fascinating when you get into the underground science of how these plants work in like harmony together. The fungi, the roots will nourish the roots from the plants, and vice versa. Then the plants give food back to the fungi, and the two of them grow in harmony together. So that leads me on nicely to the the spiritual aspect of eating. For me, I feel eating plant-based food is like a spiritual thing for me. It connects me to the source. I find it so magical that we have these ingredients that just appear from a seed. For example, I got where I meditate in the morning here, there's a papaya tree right in front of me, and I've watched that papaya tree grow from seed to a big tree that produces fruit that we pick on the balcony here and eat for snacks and everything. And to see a plant grow like that is quite magical. And for me, it gives me a lot of gratitude to just to have these ingredients that just are created from a combination of sun, air, earth, water, and all the elements. So quite magical. So that's there's a spiritual aspect to eating as well. And then so I think the benefits for a plant-based diet, for me, you can break it down into three pillars. One is our personal health. One is the health of the environment and the sustainability. And then the other aspect then is the the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual pillar. Going back to the sustainability aspect, eating plant-based is the future. It is where we need to be going with the global population getting bigger and bigger. Things have to change. The food system has to change. It's completely unsustainable to go on the way that we have been going on. And I'm so excited and so happy to have, to discover that one of the top restaurants in New York, Chef Daniel Hum at 11 Madison Park, and a few other chefs as well, are actually leading the way in plant-based cuisine. And they've come back after lockdowns and COVID restrictions, and they've reopened the restaurants as 100% plant-based. And that's inspiring and encouraging, and that's going to lead the way to a lot more restaurants and chefs and people who are in an area of responsibility are making an area of influence in the culinary world to work with farmers, to work with communities, to work with nature in creating a more sustainable food system. I think it's vital moving forward. I think it's a great opportunity now. Now is the best time. It's the only time. The time is now to do that moving forwards for a more sustainable future, so that everyone can eat. The amount of water that gets used to produce beef and to produce animal products is completely unsustainable. We're growing barley and crops to feed animals while there's people starving in other parts of the world. So hopefully this will change. I think there's a huge movement on worldwide, all over, of people heading towards more plant-based, more sustainable, and a more ethical way of eating. And it's a win-win-win. I think that's a winning formula. When everybody wins, when we win, we're getting better health. Nature wins because the land has been looked after better, and the soil has been looked after better and being regenerated. And then the farmers and the producers and suppliers. So it's a win-win-win. I think it's a very exciting time to be moving forward with plant-based. What I would advise to anyone, if you're thinking about this way of eating and way of lifestyle, is to go for it. Just do it. But back yourself up with knowledge and learn. See it as a start of a new journey, a start of an adventure, that you're investing in your health and you're investing in the health of the environment. And moving forward like that, you get a good feeling. It's a fulfilling feeling. But do it. There's a lot of information on the internet. There's a lot of different people selling different meal plans and different things. So just be mindful of who's actually selling them and what their motives are behind. And there's many good communities online now that are promoting plant-based food. So join them, join communities and share knowledge and learn from people who've been through, who are on a plant-based journey and who've been successful and who've got healthy and who've got over health problems through eating plant-based. And it does take a new way of thinking and a new way of looking at food. Many ingredients to discover. A lot of people ask me, where do you get your protein? And, a lot of people do think that. There is certain grains and pulses that do contain all the amino acids that we need, like chia seeds would be one of them. What else? I've got a mind blank at the moment. Buckwheat is another one. Lentils, beans, pistachio nuts have recently been advertised that they've got all the amino acids. We have hemp in there as well. Millet is another one. And then we have quinoa. And there's probably a few more that I missed there, but there's about 10 different plant-based foods that contain all the protein our body needs. And then there's a lot of other plant-based foods that contain some of the amino acids, but as long as you combine them with other ingredients, your body is getting enough over a period of time, which comes back to eating a variety. If you eat a variety of different grains, pulses, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, eat a variety, and then your body gets what it needs nutritionally. Listening to your body is another tip as well. When you're changing your diet and you're changing what you're eating, see how your body reacts, and transition slowly and see how your body reacts when you take some foods out and you add in other foods. See how your hunger levels go, see how your energy goes, see how your sleeping is, and then go with that. It's a big thing, listening to your body and listen to your bodily fluids. We eat food and it goes through us through a magical process of digestion, which is a magical process our body can do without us even thinking. But then when we discharge the food, we also need to be aware of how it's being discharged, at what time, and how it's looking, because that's another sign of how our body is receiving and digesting all these plant-based ingredients. I'm feeling great after these shots, very energizing. Good health. Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food is one of the terms we've all heard. And it's true, prevention is better than cure. And that's promoted a lot in Ayurvedic and Indian culture, is prevention, preventative measures. And that's, from listening to our body, if something is out of balance or something not right with our digestion or something, something's not right. If we have a headache, don't take a headache tablet for it to go away. We need to think, okay, well, why have I a headache? Am I dehydrated? Am I allergic to something? Am I not sleeping right or something? So prevention is better than cure. And I think we all have the potential to avoid unnecessary lifestyle illnesses by what we choose to eat every day. Prevention is better than cure. Another term we hear a lot of is you are what you eat. I would like to go a little bit deeper on that and take it to another level. And we are what we can effectively digest from what we eat is more to the point. Many people say you are what you eat, but it's not very accurate, because there's so much food many people eat and it just doesn't get digested because you eat too much or the wrong foods or something. So we are what our body becomes, what we effectively digest from what we eat. And there's a magical term and a beautiful term in Ayurveda called, or the Agni, which I've read a lot about over the last few years. I think it's really powerful. It's like everything comes from digestion. Everything starts there. Like, all disease begins in the gut. If it all starts with digestion. And it's something I think we all need to be aware of as well, and in tuning in more into our digestion. I started learning about digestion first, and I started studying nutrition about 6 years ago, and it completely blew my mind. Something I'd never thought of before, about, wow, our body does that without us even thinking about it. Our digestive enzymes start getting released when we smell food. You know, when you feel hungry, you smell the cake out of the oven, or you smell some food. That's when your digestive system starts, and it starts producing the digestive enzymes to digest that food. From when we're chewing the food, more digestive enzymes are being released, and our body can actually distinguish what foods we're chewing, so it knows what digestive enzymes to release. So small little tips like chewing is powerful. Like if we change these habits to chew our food more, which relates to eating mindfully, it'll have a huge impact in how that food is digested. You know, sometimes we get really hungry and we're like chugging something down while people are watching their phone. That's bad for digestion, you know, because your body's not ready. It's not being chewed enough, and you're not mindfully digesting. So small little tips like that can have a profound impact in our overall health by just taking that time out, sitting down, relaxing. When you're eating, it's very important to be relaxed, in good company, in a positive atmosphere, and eat slowly and chew. And the more you chew, the more easier for our digestion. Our cells can digest the food and take all the nutrients out of it much, much easier, rather than just chugging it down, and then our body has to work harder. And what happens then is our digestive system gets overworked, overused, and then we feel tired. So they're good tips, very simple tips about chewing our food. It sometimes gets overlooked. Chewing our food, eating mindfully, eating slowly, and eating when you're feeling positive as well is a big impact too. I think if we're eating when we're in a bad mood, or we're feeling negative, or we're guilty about the food we're eating, or we're scared about the food we're eating, we're going to take on that negative energy as well from the food. So there's some good little tips that I've learned throughout my time, just to take that time out to relax and to eat your food with gratitude, with joy, with pleasure. And I think it's one of the best forms of self-love that we can do, and we can do every day, a couple of times a day. And your body will thank you for it. When you start doing that and you'll start to feel the benefits. Your body will thank you. You'll be more energized, you'll be more creative, you'll be more endurance, more stamina. So it has a whole positive effect. So my whole approach, maybe what you gather from today, my whole approach to food is a very, very all-rounded, holistic approach to food, inspired by Ayurvedic principles and Ayurvedic history, in that there's no one diet or lifestyle that fits everybody. It's we've got to find out what works for us, listen to our body, and find out what works for us. And I think it's very important. People ask me, what does holistic mean for you? And it's a big question, and it could be a big answer, but I narrow it down to 5 things, like related to food. It's about like what we eat, who we eat, who we're eating with, where we're eating, why we're eating, and when. It's the who, what, when, where, why. I think it's good to look at them aspects. Like when are you eating? If you're eating just before you go to bed, it's not good. You know, we need to, you know, have a routine about when we're eating, so that our body can get into that natural rhythm, and like with our circadian rhythm and everything. So when we're eating is important. Why we're eating is massive, huge. So many people eat because they're lonely, eat because they're sad, they eat because there's so many different reasons, you know. Comfort eating, they're eating to get that pleasure from food. Your body doesn't need it. They're just trying to get comfort from that food. And that's you know, a vicious cycle of overeating and eating disorders. So looking at why we're eating, when we're eating, who we're eating with, you know, eat with a good company, with your family, and eat mindfully and share experiences, and where you're eating, you know, to eat in a nice environment, stress-free, and who, what, when, where, why. I think that's it. That's my whole holistic approach round up into 5 little tips. So I think we're going to start a question and answers soon.
Namaste, Jamie. Thank you so much. That was really wonderful, and I really enjoyed watching you have sips of the The juice, and that's actually a very, very sattvic ingredient, especially good for people with high pitta, and also a great drink to have after yoga practice, because like you said, it cools the body. And if you're practicing a vinyasa style practice, that creates a lot of heat in the body.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's the perfect drink for after yoga class, and I hope our participants try its recipe. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
And I completely agree, and I'm sure our participants also completely agree with everything you've said. You have to listen to your body, give it food that nourishes it. And food affects our subtle energy and the subtle body as well, the mind especially. And even what you said about who is cooking the food, what mood they're in when they're cooking the
Yes,
food,
yes,
all
yes.
of that makes such a difference. And
Yeah,
in India, it's we have this thing, like, at least my mom would tell me, if you're in a bad mood, don't cook, because I don't
yeah.
want to eat that food, because
You can
it
tell.
translates into energy.
You can tell when you go to a restaurant and the food's not nice. You know the chef's in a bad mood. It does.
Yeah,
I know it myself.
absolutely.
Like the happier and more positive you are, the better the food will taste, and that
I
energy you
completely
pass on
agree.
to the table and the people you're cooking for.
It's why we Indians love to eat our mother's food. And I think
Yeah,
universally, because a mom always cooks with love. And I think that's
yeah,
why our mama's food is always the best food.
yeah, yeah.
So thank you so much. And we do have a few questions. So Deborah's asking a couple of questions. I've just clubbed them together. She'd like to know about what you think for lentils as an ingredient in terms of digestion, and the nutritional value of red rice.
Okay, good questions. Lentils, there's many different varieties of lentils. So it depends if they're grown in Canada or India. There are many different varieties of lentils. So do look into which type of lentils they are, and how they're grown as well is quite important. Very important to soak your lentils. Soak them and wash them. They might have been in a warehouse for a few months. So wash them, soak them, blanch them, cook them really well. And with digestion, it'll affect everybody differently. If you haven't been eating them for a while, you might have a little bit of flatulence, a bit of wind. But chew them well and see how your body reacts with the digestion. And go back to the agni. Everyone has a different strength of agni, and if your agni is a little bit weak, maybe the lentils won't digest as well as someone who has a strong agni. You can eat them in a soup, like a dal, like a really watery soup, that will help with the digestion, rather than having like a really thick, a lot of lentils. But play around with different varieties and see how they affect your digestion. But they're a very good source of protein, like really good source of protein, a complete protein. Going on to red rice. Again, rice. There's so many in Thailand here. There's like 100 varieties. There's loads of varieties of rice. So it really depends on I think there's probably a few different varieties of red rice as well. I think it'll depend if they're like genetically modified, if they're GMO or non-GMO, if they're organic or non-organic. Also look at the freshness of it as well. Some rice that are very old, they mightn't be very good quality. So again, try to choose a good brand or know where the rice has come from. But any rice, like in a variety, I can say is good, if it's from a good source and well grown. So I don't know the exact nutritional benefits of red rice. Here in Thailand, I get a black rice. It's called rice berry. I use a lot of that here because it's grown in abundance here, but it's a very good one. So again, it depends what region you're in and where the rice comes from and so on. So I hope that answers your question. Okay.
Okay, this is the second part of Deborah's question. She'd like to know if you practice food combining, and do you ever do an only fruit diet?
Food combining is, I've researched it a bit over the years, and it's very interesting. I think in my approach to food combining, I look for different colored foods, food from under the ground, over the ground, and the tree. I don't have like all root vegetables on my plate. I like combine it with something from under, something from over, something from the tree, something from the seaweed. Kind of like a thali, there's a little bit of everything. Or in macrobiotics, they have a macro bowl, which will be like, grains, 40% pulses, carbohydrates, fermented food, a bit of raw food. So it'll have like a combination of that. So with the food combining, again, listen to your body. Don't have too much. You know, if you have 20 things in your eating, that's too much. Like simple is good. 2 or 3 things on the plate and eat them slowly. But it can get very complex and very complicated if you really go into the science of every single food combination, because it will affect you differently as well, depending on how your digestion is and all that. So that would be my approach to food combining. What was the second part of the question? Sorry.
Do you ever go, or would you ever recommend an only fruit diet?
Again, the word diet, I don't go for that at all, because for me, diet is something that's restricting for a period of time, and it can do damage to the body. You know, ketogenic diet, not done properly, is very dangerous, and there's a lot of people doing that. So the word diet, first of all, I would just be cautious about, and be cautious about who's prescribing this fruit diet, and ask yourself, why are you doing the fruit diet? What are you trying to achieve from it? I've never done it myself. I've heard of a couple of people who have done it, but I don't know too much about it to advise. So I'm sorry, I don't know too much about it to advise there. So ask yourself, why are you doing it, or what do you want to achieve from it? And then I could maybe give some more background on that.
Thank you. Deborah, I hope that answers all of your questions. Then we have someone joining us from Ireland, and the person from Ireland, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. It's spelled Nike, but I think it's Nikki perhaps, is
Nikki.
Asking, is it even possible to have a plant-based diet in Ireland?
I would say everything is possible. You'd have to rely upon a few imports, which is okay nowadays. So import your buckwheat grain, import your chia seeds, lentils. Like, we're lucky in the world we live in now, we can get different grains and pulses from around the world. So fill up your dry store with chickpeas, lentils, millet, amaranth, spelt, teff, with all these grains that have all your different proteins, and they become your kind of your base. They become like the core protein of your dish. And then you got oats in Ireland. My breakfast 363 days of the year is based on oats and chia seeds, because the combination of them becomes a complete protein, and that fuels me until lunchtime. So fill up your dry store with all them kind of grains and pulses, and then with the fruits and vegetables, you have to rely upon a few imports. But then be careful with the imports, because if you're eating too many pineapples in Ireland in the wintertime, you know, it's a little bit out of balance. So it's possible, but it'll take a little bit of research. Find a farm that grows good swede and parsnip and turnip and salsify and cabbages. You have to start fermenting some cabbages, make some sauerkraut, so you've got some good gut microbiome going on there. Yeah, you know, avocados you can get all the different nuts and seeds, so it's possible. I'll think about designing a plant-based menu for my home country, Ireland. I'll put it on my to-do list.
Great. You have inspiration right there. That's incredible. Amazing. Our next question is from Shefali. So Shefali wants to know if she can use honey and yogurt, or what are good substitutes for honey, and as well as milk products, dairy products. Yeah,
good question. I think that was my last leg of the journey from going plant-based, was the eggs and milk and cheese and all that. And, you know, so many people like cheese and dairy, that's, you know, and there is some health properties of yogurt and so on from a good source. So I'd say alternatives to the yogurt would be, well, there's always coconut yogurt. It depends on where you're living, coconut yogurt. For me, when I transitioned, one of the last things for me to transition from was milk kefir. I used to ferment my own milk and make milk kefir. And again, going back to what we said, you know, you may not have to go 100% plant-based, you know, it could be 95%. Rather than going 100% and then cutting it there and like losing out on some nutrition, maybe you need to transition for a while and that. But I would say, yeah, some coconut yogurt for the probiotics. Also, you can I make a cashew sour cream by soaking cashew nuts and then blending them down with a little bit of nutritional yeast, a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of cider vinegar, and a little bit of water and blend that down, and I get like a nice sour cashewy cream. So there is some alternatives like that. And then the honey, personally, I do eat honey from a good source because I think there's good properties in it, and it's better than refined agave or refined maple syrup or something like that. So personally, I stay with honey. I don't think there's any substitute to honey. There's date syrup in these things, but then there's a different sugar content in that. So yeah, I hope that answers your question okay.
Thank you. We just have 2 more questions. Because of time, we can't answer every question. So Anjan's asking about how would you recommend we use neem leaves, because it has a lot of medicinal properties, but it's a very bitter leaf. So any ideas on how to take away the bitterness of that?
Of which leaf is that?
Neem leaf.
Oh, neem. I've not cooked with neem, to be honest, yet.
Okay, maybe Anjan can do a little Google search.
Yeah, no, sorry, I won't try to give advice because I haven't cooked with neem. I've only used neem in my mosquito repellent.
Yeah, but that's great. Thank you for your honesty. That's really honest. Thank you. And the last question we have, it's actually 2 questions. What is your opinion on protein powders, and what juicer have you used in this session? Someone wants to know.
Okay, that's a very good question on protein powders. When I went to my Muay Thai camp in northern Thailand 6 years ago, I noticed none of these Muay Thai fighters took any protein powders, and they are built like steel rafters, you know, they're strong. And I'm thinking, and all they're eating is a little bit of chicken twice a week, a couple of eggs, and then loads of rice, loads of vegetables. They get muscle from training, and muscles are built when you're actually resting, not when you're training. And there's a huge marketing push all around the world selling these different protein powders, which are a blend of like pea and rice and BCAA, and they all put all different blends. There's about 40 things in the back of them, and they come in a big container, and their cost is very low, and they put a huge margin on them. And they get brand ambassadors to sell them who've got 6-packs, and they put them on Instagram and they try to sell them. My personal belief in them that they're all refined powders, and that I don't think our body is used to digesting them kind of protein powders. You know, you get hemp powder, pea powder, rice powder, all into a shake, and you drink it. Rice and peas and hemp, they're all designed to like eat and chew and stuff like that. So I would just be mindful of the brand you're buying from. Personally, I use spirulina powder from a local farm here in Phuket. And if you do your research, you'll note that spirulina is 70% protein, natural protein with all the amino acids, with loads of other nutritional properties, and it's a natural ingredient that's one of the oldest life forms on Earth. A really healthy algae, it's natural. So having that in a powder form in your smoothie, I would advise. Now, some of the spirulinas you buy online don't taste nice. The reason of that is they're not grown and cultivated in a clean farm. So again, look at the brand that's selling them and try to find a brand that has a good farm that grows the spirulina in an enclosed farming system. So that'll be my approach to protein powders. And again, like, why are you taking protein powders as well? I prefer getting protein from actual like lentils and grains and pulses and oats and chia seeds. So yeah, and I know some athletes need more protein because, you know, you're training a lot, you're training for a competition. I've done a lot of CrossFit, I've done a lot of marathons, and I know like a lot of friends of mine, they need a lot of protein. So I'd just be wary about all these protein powder blends that have loads of sweeteners and vanilla flavoring in there to make them palatable, because without them, they taste disgusting. That's just my personal approach.
Thank you. And your juicer, someone wanted to know the
my
one
juicer,
that
I use a Herum juicer, Hurom. Now, I've only heard of these since I came out here to Asia. I haven't seen them back in Europe. I'm not too sure where they're made, but they're really good. It's a slow press juicer, and it just like breaks it down really slowly and extracts it really nice. So it costs about, you know, it's an investment, and I think it's a wise investment. I spend most of my money on food or kitchen gadgets and blenders, and I think they're good investments. You know, anything that we spend money on good tools and good ingredients that we put inside us, we feel better than spending it on fancy sunglasses like Ray-Bans and stuff like that. That's my personal approach. So Hiram, it's a good investment to get a good juicer.
Thank you. Thank you
Then
so
use
much.
it. And use the juicer every day. Not in the
Great.
cupboard.
That was a fantastic session. So before we leave, we're going to just ask you for your details and a message. But before that, I'd just like to do tomorrow's announcements. So can we have the poster for tomorrow, please? Srinivas ji? Okay, so tomorrow morning, we're going to start our day with a beautiful session on the benefits of a seated meditation. Harmony Slater is going to be joining us all the way from Canada to talk about Vipassana and then take us through a guided session on how to find silence and meditate. And our evening session is going to be pacifying the storms of emotion, the yogic way, which is, I think, a great topic because emotional well-being is also part of our holistic well-being. So we have 2 great sessions tomorrow, and I hope everyone's going to join us for tomorrow. Thank you so much. So if any of our participants wanted to contact you or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So my recipe blog website is www.holisticchefacademy.com. Also my Instagram tag is _holistic_chef. So I think the recipe blog, if you go on there, you can subscribe. Share your email address with me. I respect that and I look after it, and I send out every week. I do a newsletter of my recipe of the week. This recipe is going out this week, and I think that's the most personal way to share information with you. Please pop me a message, a private message on Instagram or on the website. I respond to them personally, and I'm always happy to advise and share recipes or ideas or any advice I can. So please connect and follow my journey.
Thank you so much. And any last parting words for our participants?
Any words? No, you put me on the spot. Do I have to say something inspirational or not?
Up to you.
I'd say in relation to plant-based foods is I'd say go for it and embrace it and approach it with an open mind. And invest in yourself. I think, I tell that to people, I do that myself and promote that. Invest in yourself. Like, put yourself number one. Invest in yourself. And it's not being selfish at all. Some people think, oh no, it's being selfish, but put yourself number one, because the more we look after ourselves, nutritionally, exercise and so on, then the more we can look after other people around us, whether it's friends, family, community organizations or what. So don't be, ashamed. Put yourself number one. So you
Great,
can help
fantastic. That was a beautiful parting message. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And also for everyone who's watching, if you want to come back, these sessions are recorded. They're going to be available on YouTube. So even for anyone, if any of our participants have missed this session, you came in halfway, you missed the lovely recipe that Jamie shared with us, it's all going to be available on YouTube. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you so much, Jamie. Dhanyavad.
Pleasure. One thing, sorry, I forgot. I'm launching my online cookery school next week, and every week I do a different plant-based menu. I do Mexican, Japanese. We're doing a different theme every week. So I'm starting off this Saturday with a Mexican-themed whole food plant-based menu. So it's my version of Mexican plant-based cuisine. So if you go to my website, Holistic Chef Academy, and have a look around there, you should be able to find it. And you can join one of them classes. It's kind of like this setup here. I send all the recipes and menu out to you when you book the class, and then we cook along together.
That sounds fantastic. And I hope our participants join. That sounds like a great thing to be a part of. So thank you so much again, everyone. Dhanyavad. Dhanyavad, Jamie, for being a part of Indica Yoga's Global Yoga Festival. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Have a beautiful evening, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.